6 o'clock news starts right now.
It has been 1 week since major flooding killed 13 people.
And in just under 2 hours from now, there will be a tribute to honor those victims. But ahead of that tribute tonight, our Zaria Oates is at the site where some of those cars were pulled out of the water a week ago. Zaria, you're near Beidle Creek area, not far from Perrin Beidle Road and Loop 410. So what does it look like out there now?
Yeah, we're just off of Perrin Beidle. The road is just next to us, and just behind us is where some of those people were actually pulled out. Some of those cars were pulled out from this damage. There's actually a pretty small but growing memorial here for those 13 people who lost their lives in this flooding. Now, we are waiting to hear from some more people, see some friends and family later this evening as they come to honor the people who died during this major flooding. That event is happening on the northwest side, and we'll be making sure to be there and updating you about what happened there. But while we were here looking at this memorial, we actually spoke with a man who said that he was in this area driving the night of that flooding, and just before everything got really bad, a police officer told him to turn around. He says he saw on KSAT what happened after that. This is what he says. He hopes the city and the county learn from this mistake.
These low water crossings and things that have, it should be something that automatically alerts, the county or the department or something, maybe some gates that'll, open and close, simultaneously if something happens like that. But it's got to be something that they have to do to keep from something like this happening.
Just after this, we'll be heading over to that northwest side where this tribute honoring those 13 victims will be taking place, and we'll be live later tonight with updates from that event and exactly what people have to say about this tragedy. Live on the north side, I'm Zaria Oates.
Thank you, Zaria. Remembering those lost, also thinking about those still recovering. People in a northwest side neighborhood are looking for some relief after weathering last week's deadly and damaging storms.
That same flooding that led to those 13 deaths in the city also packed a punch for people in their property along Daca View near Grissom and Timber Hill roads. High water rushed toward homes. It seeped into their cars and carried away pieces of some people's backyards entirely. Look at that. Neighbors say the amount of damage was surprising, but the flooding there is not a surprise. They say it happens far too often.
It's 2 times for me. And then my brother lived here. Like I said, he told me it flooded 2 times before.
We want the city to help us and see what they can do for us, because this is getting out of hand,
The people in that neighborhood say they have called the city of San Antonio numerous times about clogged drainage ditches, and the drainage system itself, they say, is not sufficient.
So we emailed both their city council representative and the public works department for some answers about this, but we're still waiting to hear back.
And Adam, you and I have talked a lot about this, about what could have caused, a wall of water is basically what a lot of the people that survived that flood describe it as. Was something clogged upstream? Was it just the way this whole thing, the drainage ditches are designed around San Antonio? Still so much we don't know.
A lot we don't know, but I theorize just by the firsthand accounts we've heard that there was something upstream that may have caused a brief blockage. And once that blockage released, then that wall of water would have moved through. And that's just my theory, by the way. I haven't gone and surveyed it, but I see how that could have happened very easily. Rain chances going forward, about 10 to 20% chance. That's all we're looking at. Maybe a few afternoon pop-ups, especially between I-10 and I-37 along the coastal plain by next week. Looking for some ripples in the upper level flow to head our way, but nothing significant. The active weather is basically midsection of the country, and from the Great Lakes all the way down to Little Rock and back toward the Red River. That's where the thunderstorm risk is today. You'd be surprised of the temperature difference and contrast we're going to see in the days ahead, comparing us to typically cooler locations. We'll get to it in just a bit.
Okay, thanks, Adam. Let's get a check of traffic out there right now. We're going to take you first here to 1604 at Nacogdoches. You can see it's slow-going traffic, but also just a ton of construction in this area. Highway 90 and Loop 410, smooth sailing, really no major problems to tell you about around the city.
At this hour, the city of San Antonio has a new city council and a new mayor. They were sworn into office earlier this afternoon.
Now that they're official, the question is, what comes next?
Yeah, City Hall reporter Garrett Berger was there earlier today when the newest members took their seats. Garrett, what does this change up mean for the city?
Well, Steve, it's hard to say at this moment. These council members, 4 of them, are coming in with a variety of views. And while they'll all be new to their seats, they all each have experience in either council, mayor, or county commissioner's offices. Now, the new mayor is a former undersecretary at the Air Force, but this is her first elected position, where she'll be 1 vote out of 11. Now, here's a look at the 5 new faces on council. There's, of course, Mayor Gina Ortiz-Jones, Edward Munguia in District 4, Rick Galvan in 6, Ivelisse Meza-Gonzalez in 8, and Misty Spears in 9. Most of them were sworn in this morning, having won their spots in the runoff, those results being canvassed today, whereas Munguia won his outright and was sworn in earlier. Now, this is a big overhaul of the council as they run up against some big challenges. There's the multi-billion-dollar Project Marvel plan, which is at a critical point, especially with the thorny questions of how they're going to fund a new Spurs arena. There's also uncertainty when it comes to federal funding sources and a growing city budget deficit that they're going to have to figure out here soon. Mayor Jones spoke about some of her budget priorities after being sworn in.
We will make sure that, as we would say in the military, on no-fail missions, right? Those folks that are keeping us safe, our fire, EMS, and police have the resources they need to do that. We'll also make sure that we are minimizing any long-term risks to our most vulnerable communities, right?
Now, budget goal setting session is expected next week. That's where we're really going to start getting into the nitty-gritty of what they want to fund and what they might be willing to cut when it comes time for the budget later this fall. Right now, the city's hosting an inauguration ceremony for the new members. As I said, they've already been sworn in. This is more of a ceremonial item, but you can follow it along live on our website. We've got a live stream going. Just check it out on KSAT.com. Outside council chambers, I'm Garrett Berger, KSAT 12 News.
Hey, Garrett, before we let you go, I just want to clarify one thing. You referred to her as Mayor Jones. That is under the guidance from her office, that she be referred to as Mayor Jones. That is her preference. So that is what we're doing. Just wanted to clarify that for you, Garrett. Appreciate it.
All right, Garrett.
That is correct. Would San Antonio drinking water be safe if a controversial Northwest Side development were to go into place? Sarah Costa spoke with a UTSA professor who says absolutely not.
Yeah, he was very clear about this. If the Wahalote Ranch housing development were to happen, a water treatment plant would have to be put in place. Here's a bit of their conversation and why this professor believes that water would not be safe to drink or to use and how it could hurt us in the long run.
The biggest concern is if this project was to happen and they build this waste plant, is that water safe to drink, especially for all of San Antonio residents?
The short answer is no. It's not safe to drink.
Dr. Salgado Data is a professor of hydrology and geochemistry and the chair of UTSA's Department of Earth and Planetary Sciences. He has been following the Wahalote Ranch development plan to go into Northwest Bexar County that would sit on Helotes Creek watershed that feeds into the Edwards Aquifer. If the development happens, it would bring 2,900 homes on approximately 1,100 acres west of Scenic Loop and Babcock Roads, which would require a wastewater treatment plant for San Antonio drinking water. Neighbors have been fighting this development because of the impacts on the environment and the water quality for 1.6 million people. Dr. Dada says residents are rightfully concerned about drinking treated sewage water. He says drinking treated sewage water needs to be thoroughly cleaned.
The trouble is that when they build up with time, that needs to be treated properly by these wastewater treatment plants, which that's what they are supposed to do. But sometimes this treatment process is not flawless.
Even if the water is perfectly cleaned, the chemicals used to treat that water are even more harmful to the human body.
The terminal part of it, which we don't want to see for sure, is the developing the, say, carcinogens or cancerous. And these are, almost all these chemicals have a potential for going in that direction.
On top of that, the treated water doesn't always clean out forever chemicals in wastewater, which can also cause things like cancer.
They will actually start corroding some of the organs that we have, and that leads to some of the cancerous diseases that we see.
That water would also be used to irrigate local farms, spraying those forever chemicals onto our food. He says as a whole, this also impacts the entire watershed and aquifer system disrupting the ecosystem.
The whole ecosystem will be affected. And in that ecosystem stays the human health. That will be affected.
Datta says an unhealthy ecosystem means unhealthy humans in the long run. Sarah Acosta, KSAT 12 News.
So back in May, the Neighborhood Alliance fighting this development was dealt a blow when state judges recommended that the TCEQ approve a wastewater permit for the development. Now, a final decision by the TCEQ may not come until August, and that could bring even further legal battles.
As the Trump administration prepares for potential action against Iran, military reservists are receiving activation orders, including Bexar County Commissioner Grant Moody. Moody, a lieutenant colonel in the Marine Reserves. KSAT spoke with him as he was literally packing up to head to MacDill Air Force Base in Tampa, Florida. He says he'll be assisting with operational planning and staff to ready support teams. Moody says he's to continue to carry out his duties as county commissioner. It'll just be done remotely.
I'm giving you a shot. Don't mess this up.
A judge with a stern warning today for that 11-year-old boy standing before him who brought a gun and 60 rounds of ammunition to school last month. Today, that child took a plea deal for 1 year of deferred adjudication. The boy last month was arrested and charged with unlawful carry of a weapon at a prohibited place, which is a third-degree felony. Investigators say he brought the gun and ammo to Harris Middle School. Today, the boy also had something to tell the judge as well.
I'm sorry, and I really am, and I don't know if you believe in God, but I do, and I'm trying to turn to God and just be a better person in general.
The 11-year-old will have strict conditions to follow over the next year, including a 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. curfew, random drug testing, no possession of firearms, and no posting illegal activity on social media.
A lot of you who live around Lackland Air Force Base called us this morning worried about a possible gas leak. This afternoon, the San Antonio Fire Department says what you smelled wasn't natural gas, but instead a chemical called mercaptan that is added to natural gas to give it a distinct odor. CPS Energy released a statement shortly after saying that the mercaptan was released by a line break from a neighboring utility. And while mercaptan itself is not dangerous, there is no threat to the public. The company is sending gas technicians to monitor the situation out of an abundance of caution. They say that if you smell gas, give them a call at 210-353-HELP. And if you smell it in your home, get out and call 911.
Still ahead, are you headed to the coast this summer? Every year, there are reports about fecal bacteria in the water. KSAT explains when to Galveston to find out why and where that bacteria comes from.
And 81 years later, a Bernie veteran getting an award for his World War II service from across the pond. Courtney Friedman will introduce us to him next.
A dead dog sealed inside of a suitcase, and neighbors on the east side found it on a sidewalk. Coming up tonight in the Night Beat, we'll tell you where this investigation stands and a possible person of interest.
It is the highest honor possible in France, and it was today bestowed upon a 103-year-old World War II veteran from San Antonio. Members of the French consulate in Houston traveling to Bernie today for this special ceremony.
Courtney Friedman had the privilege of meeting Private First Class Pedro Vera as he was honored and celebrated today. And she tells us after hearing his story, it's clear he deserves every bit of this recognition.
How does it feel to be here today?
Well, it's exciting.
103 years old, and besides a little trouble hearing, Private First Class Pedro Vera is sharp as a tack, humble, kind, and funny. A feat after what he's seen in his life. Pedro enlisted in the U.S. Army in 1942, and by 1944, he was storming the beaches of Normandy, driving ambulances full of wounded soldiers. What do you remember about 1944?
A lot of pain and suffering, a lot of people dying, and sometimes it was not too easy because it was too dark. In those days, you couldn't turn the light on to drive.
It was one crystal clear memory that truly shows his character and bravery.
They were fighting. The Americans were on the left, the Germans on the right. Some kind of an officer, I imagine, what are you doing? Get out. I said, you do your job and I do mine. I kept on going straight, and they didn't shoot me. But I want to thank them, of course.
How many soldiers were in the ambulance?
At least 6.
After our interview, he was whisked away on an old Army Jeep, taken to the Veterans Plaza, where a Major General offered his own award.
And to make it official, if you would,
pinning Pedro as a 1-star general.
This medal is a token of France's eternal gratitude.
And then a member of the French consul from Houston gave him the French Legion of Honor, the highest award in their country.
And I am very grateful, of course.
At 103, he had a simple yet profound piece of advice for the rest of us.
I just want people to realize that a war is ugly, and that I hope there is no more wars.
He especially hopes the youngest generations will stay educated and be ready to stand up for what's right, like he did so many years ago. Thank you for your service.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Courtney Friedman, KSAT 12 News.
What a day, what a story he has.
103-year-old hero.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Glad Courtney did that story. All right, meanwhile, outside, green the color of June, which, we don't get to say that much in June, but we are this year.
We are proud to have green all over the place right now. It's even on the TransGuide cameras. You can see it in the medians and whatnot. Everything is very lush because of the recent rainfall. And I want to talk temperatures a little bit and give you a bit of a comparison here, because the upper level heat high, the big blue H, it's not going to be settling overhead as it did, say, in early May when we had triple-digit heat. Let's take a look at our temperature trend. The average high is 93. We're going to be within a degree, maybe 2 of that, every day for the foreseeable future. And you look at the longer range outlook. This is June 24th to 28th. Notice how the heat is the above average temperatures, and basically the heat is in the eastern U.S. and even parts of the desert Southwest are likely to be below average temperature wise. And here we're right there in the middle, equal chances. So basically right around average. So look at this. Once the big blue H settles over the eastern U.S. by this weekend and early next week, Sunday, we're talking warmer temperatures from Minneapolis to Chicago and Detroit than what we have here in San Antonio. 94 San Antonio, St. Louis 98, Chicago 96, 97 the high in Detroit. I mean, that's record territory for them. I mean, for us, that's nothing, but it just shows the contrast with the upper level high that's going to be planted over them and not us. So here's the big blue H right now. It's over the Baja Peninsula, and it's definitely influencing our weather, but it's going to continue to pass overhead and be progressive and move eastward. Meanwhile, the western U.S. has this little dip in the upper level flow. That's actually going to contribute to the below average temperatures in the desert Southwest. Here we're right in the middle where it's seasonable, right near average. And even Monday, 94 here. But you go to Detroit, 98 degrees, right? Pittsburgh, 97, DC, 99. Kind of mind-blowing, isn't it? Very interesting, very interesting. Here's Hurricane Eric. This is just south of Mexico right now, already impacting parts of the southwestern coast of Mexico, likely to become a Category 3. Right now a Cat 2, likely to become a Cat 3 as it makes landfall late tonight and into tomorrow and weekends. We're not going to get any leftover moisture from that. 91 degrees right now, feels like 97 when you factor in the mugginess in the air. 93 Castroville, 89 Bulverde, Floresville right now 91. And as we go through the evening, temperatures falling through the 80s. Tomorrow we start the day at 76. By noon we're 86, and then 94 the high temperature. So pretty similar to today and within a degree of the average high. Some low clouds at sunrise, and then nothing but sunshine by about 9 a.m. Eagle Pass tomorrow 98, New Braunfels 94, and Kerrville 93. I tell you what, in June, it's nice to see temperatures near average, very seasonable. We'll take a look at the dust, where it is, where it's going. The African dust, that is, coming up at 6:40.
Okay, thanks, Adam.
All right, there are some people who say this guy is too good to pass up if you're the Spurs.
Yeah, guard Dylan Harper, very good player. He can play both guard positions, and he's widely considered the second best player in the draft behind Cooper flag. Coming up, we're going to talk to a high school coach who knows Dylan Harper very well. And tonight is Take Me Out to the Ball Game. Mary Rominger is live from the Wolf with more. Coming up. The first round of the 2025 NBA draft is 1 week from tonight, and the San Antonio Spurs are expected to select Rutgers guard Dylan Harper at number 2 overall, and right after the Mavs select Cooper Flagg number 1. Dylan Harper was a consensus 5-star recruit coming out of high school, and this dude can really play ball. North Crowley High School head basketball coach Tommy Brackle, who coached Harper in the McDonald's All-American game, says the thought of Dylan teaming up with Victor Wembanyama is going to be fun to watch.
I mean, it's going to be incredibly dynamic, and if I remember right, I think they've got the 12th overall pick or something right in there, maybe from Atlanta or somebody. I mean, they are about to have just a super talented roster. But you know, and again, I can't speak on their roster right now because I just haven't been around any of those guys. But as far as Dylan, I mean, for a kid that young to have that type of maturity and those types of leadership skills and all of that kind of stuff, I think he's going to be able to step in a locker room, to step on a court, and even, you know, demand that kind of respect on an NBA team. That was how impressive he was at working with him.
Dylan's dad is former NBA player and 5-time NBA champion Ron Harper. The Missions have been hot. They're coming off a series win against Amarillo, where San Antonio outfielder Ripken Reyes went 6 for 16 at the plate with 3 triples, a home run, and 10 RBI, which led all of AA last week. Reyes was named Texas League Player of the Week for his impressive performance. But now the focus shifts to a 6-game series against the Frisco Rough Riders. San Antonio claimed Game 1 last night. And as for tonight, Mary Rominger is at the Wolf for Game 2, and it's also Take Me Out to the Ball Game. Mary?
Hey, Larry, yeah, I had to see it for myself. It's Take Me Out to the Ball Game here at the Wolf. It's the first time that the Missions are welcoming cats and kittens to the ballpark. And up until now, we hadn't seen cats come through the gates. Well, we just did. 2 cats braving the weather here at the Wolf about 30 minutes before first pitch. How awesome is this? The cats are here ready to watch some baseball. We'll also show you 3 kittens that are up for adoption here. They were brought by San Antonio Pets Alive. And they're hoping if you don't have a feline of your own, they get adopted by any Missions fans that are here. Now, we just talked to the inspiration behind Take Me Out to the Ball Game, Missions pitcher Ryan Ock, who loves cats and volunteers with San Antonio Pets Alive daily.
I go for every home series. I go Tuesday to Saturday, about 2 or 3 hours every day, right before the fields. The balance has been good. It's just I go there, it kind of gets my day started, gets you in a good mood, helping out the animals, playing with them, and then come to the field and kind of switch gears and get locked in for the game. Hopefully get some animals adopted, and if not, just bring awareness and grow the name.
Yeah, it's a great mission out here by the Missions, and they're running it just like they do for the dogs. The cats will have the opportunity to run the bases, Larry. We'll have more on Take Me Out to the Ballpark on KSAT Sports Now coming up at 7. Back to you, Larry.
Thank you, Mary. The cats get to run the bases. I've got to see that.
Did you see Mary, like, motioning people?
Yeah.
She's literally herding cats.
Yes, she is.
You know, and it doesn't really matter what happens tonight.
Oh, here we go.
It's going to be a perfect game.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. We're going to have those furry highlights for you tonight at 10.
I love it. And we'll talk more about it on Sports Now.
Yes.
Or Sports Meow.
I want to know who came up with that idea. Take me out.
Take me out? That's
Yeah.
pretty cool, huh?
I like it.
Steve likes it.
City closures and cultural celebrations happening for Juneteenth tomorrow. Still ahead, we're going to tell you what's open and what isn't during this federal holiday.
And could your beach season be spoiled by bacteria? KSAT explains how the water is tested and what it might mean for your next trip to the coast.
Every summer you see the headlines about fecal bacteria off the Texas coast. It's not pleasant to think about, but KSAT Explains did anyway.
Yeah, we did. We wanted to know, how does it get there and how big of a deal is it really? KSAT Explains went to Galveston to find out. Our day at the beach started out with a drive. So is this when you normally start sample collections?
8 o'clock, yes, ma'am.
8 o'clock. We rode along with a team as they collect samples of ocean water to test for fecal bacteria. So how often do you do the sample collection?
So we are weekly from March through mid-October, and then every other week during the off-season, during the wintertime.
John Burns collects water samples from 55 sites across Galveston County, filling these small bottles about 100 milliliters or a little over 3 ounces from each site.
So we go out, go down about elbow depth, come back up with the water, cap it. That's the basics of it. So
okay, let's do it.
All right. My biggest thing is just to make sure that we're getting out to the proper depth, which is about 2 feet. You can go from like knee deep to neck deep pretty quick on a bad day.
So what's the next step?
Put it in the ice chest.
Then drive it back to the Galveston County Health Department, where it's picked up by a third-party lab, put into another cooler, and driven 2 hours away to be tested at East Tex Labs. We followed along.
So what we're testing for is Enterococcus,
AKA fecal bacteria. The water samples are diluted first.
We call it shake and bake, because you just add this in, shake it up, and then you incubate it. So we're going to pour this in here. It's going to fill all this up. There's small and large wells.
The sample plus solution is incubated for 24 hours.
The bacteria come along, they'll metabolize this, and when they metabolize this, it releases a fluorescent chemical compound. So that's how we actually see the end result of the test. So basically we would count up how many small and how many large wells are fluorescing.
Oh, I can already see some. The more neon you see, the more bacteria in that sample.
We see the most elevated results after rain, because there's a lot of runoff, because whatever's been on the grounds, now nature's flushing it out.
The test results are reported to the Texas General Land Office, which runs the program Texas Beach Watch. It's what all of this, from sample collecting to lab handoffs to testing, is part of.
If it has hair, fur, or feathers, in essence, that animal's contributing to fecal loading in the environment.
That's where the state believes most of the fecal bacteria in coastal waters comes from, animals.
The majority of that sampling has resulted in identifying seagulls and canine as the most significant culprits, followed up by smaller amounts from humans.
Texas Beach Watch tests water samples from beaches all along the Gulf Coast. The coastal zone is an area even larger. It's any land close enough to the coast to affect water quality. The coastal zone stretches 18 counties, from Jefferson County to Cameron County, roughly 14,000 square miles.
If it goes on the ground, it flows down.
But we can't blame only animals. There are around 250 wastewater treatment plants in the coastal zone, plus 50,000 septic systems. And sometimes things break.
There are failures in the system that could be happening. Usually when those are identified, those are fixed very quickly.
If test results show high bacteria levels, the state issues an advisory.
And what that means is the Enterococcus level is greater than 104 colony-forming units per 100 milliliters.
That's the threshold set by the Environmental Protection Agency. But you don't have to remember that very science-y number. Just think of a stoplight instead.
When a beach advisory is listed at a particular site, the site icon turns from green to red. When it's red, that threshold of 104 colonies has been exceeded.
All of that information is online at texasbeachwatch.com. You can see if there's an advisory, what the bacteria levels are, and even the number of advisories for a particular location within the last year. It can help you decide whether you want to wade in.
There's a lot of beach. We're, I think, 26 miles long, so just because there's a high sample on the seawall doesn't mean the west end has high samples or vice versa.
It's very rare when we have multiple sites together, all with an advisory posted.
A state-issued advisory won't shut down a beach. That's left up to local jurisdictions. The state says bacteria levels in the water tend to be highest in March, June, and September. Why?
We're still looking into that.
So here's another question. What happens if you're exposed to fecal bacteria in the water? We came back to SA and went to University Hospital to find out.
The most common infections people are going to run into is from ingesting the water. Even if you aren't aware of drinking the water, it can get into your mouth, and you can have most commonly gastrointestinal illnesses like nausea, vomiting, diarrhea.
There's a higher concern for people who are immunocompromised, pregnant women, or people with a cut or an open wound, even a new piercing.
But if you do go in the water, make sure you cover it with a waterproof bandage to keep yourself protected there. The other thing you can do is make sure you wash your hands before you eat. A lot of times we go in the ocean water and then we eat food. But if you wash your hands afterwards or use alcohol-based hand rub to keep your hands clean before you eat, that's another way to try and reduce your risk.
There are some things we can all do to try to keep this bacteria out of the water in the first place. Pick up pet poo and pick up after yourself, too.
What do seagulls love on the beach? They love your food. They love to come and mess with your picnic and harass you. And so keeping your food away from the seagulls, not feeding the seagulls, will help to not concentrate their dispersal of bacteria on the beach itself as well. Each one of us plays a role, and we have some level of responsibility.
Juneteenth is tomorrow, and more Juneteenth events are scheduled for this Thursday and on Saturday, following the weekend's annual Juneteenth celebration. Over the weekend, that was the annual parade that began at Sam Houston High School, ending at Comanche Park No. 2, where a festival was then held. Juneteenth marks June 19th, 1865, the day the news of the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation finally reached the enslaved people of Texas. That was 2 years after President Abraham Lincoln actually signed it. Juneteenth became a federal holiday in 2021.
And one of those events coming up is the Black Contractors Association Juneteenth celebration, a free event that's going to feature speakers, entertainment, vendors. While the event is free, space is limited. Spots can be reserved on the Black Contractor Association website. That is not the only event happening this week, though. For a full list of the events happening, you can head to KSAT.com or just scan the QR code on your screen that you are seeing now. And Juneteenth, like Myra said, is a federal holiday. That means closures. Banks will be closed, along with some municipal or city offices in our viewing area. In addition to offices, San Antonio City libraries will also be closed. Officials with CPS Energy also say its offices and customer service centers will be shut down to observe the holiday. So you're wondering about garbage and recycling pickup? Well, they're going to run as normal tomorrow.
Day 6 of airstrikes between Israel and Iran continuing. President Donald Trump now saying his patience is coming to an end, and the United States is preparing to get involved. We've got those details coming up. Intense Israeli airstrikes targeting Iran's capital overnight as the air war between the two longtime enemies entered a 6th day.
Yesterday, President Donald Trump upped his pressure on Iran, writing on social media he knows where the supreme leader is hiding and demanding an unconditional surrender. Well, now Iran is warning the U.S. of an all-out war. According to multiple sources, Trump's national security team presenting him with a range of options as to how the U.S. can get involved, including using American military assets to strike Iran's nuclear facilities. The issue of whether to get involved militarily has deeply divided even Trump loyalists and elected officials from both parties. The U.S. Supreme Court upheld Tennessee's ban on gender-affirming medical treatments.
In a vote of 6-3, the High Court backed the law which prevents hormone therapy and puberty blockers for minors in the state. The ban took effect in 2023 and imposes penalties for doctors who provide those medications. Other states have similar bans to the one in Tennessee, and lower federal courts have been divided on the law's constitutionality.
It is hard to believe that this weekend it's going to be warmer in Detroit, Michigan than San Antonio, Texas.
Yeah, and Minneapolis and Chicago. And Omaha, Pittsburgh. Yeah, it's going to be warmer there than it is here. We're very seasonable. And, you know, from Mary's live shot, right?
Yeah.
At Wolf Stadium, missions that take me out to the ball game.
Yeah.
This is Smokey, roaring like a lion while watching KSAT. We'll be back to take a look at the dust, where it is out in the ocean and where it's going in just a bit.
It's green out there. Temperature's not too bad, but we're dealing with some dust, Adam.
Yeah, luckily, I don't really think it's going to be that noticeable around here. It's mostly going to be out to sea. But it's that time of year where we start to deal with the dust moving through the air coming in from Africa all the way across the Atlantic. So take a look at it right now. And it's especially out over parts of the Caribbean and the Atlantic. And you see a dense plume of it getting ready to on the right-hand side of your screen, get ready to move offshore from Africa. And around here, there's a little bit creeping into the Gulf of Mexico. It's nothing significant, just a little bit of haze from this. I don't think anybody's really going to notice it that much, especially to the naked eye, but there's going to be a little bit cycling through East Texas in the days ahead. Again, no impact to anything you do on a daily basis. Even if you have a sensitive respiratory system, you should be A-OK with that amount. No development expected in the Atlantic Basin, in the tropics over the next 7 days. It is very quiet. You see nothing but blue on this screen, indicating a lack of even clouds out there. So no disturbances or real ripples in the upper level flow. But keep in mind, the hurricane season typically does start to slowly accelerate once we get into August, and then it especially peaks at September 10th. Of course, the red being the hurricanes and the yellows being named storms, which are tropical storms. And that's where we get that spike in the fall. So typically it does get off to a fairly slow start this time of year. The beginning was January 1st. Rain chances, 10 to 20%. That's it. Nothing significant, at least not yet, and not within sight in the foreseeable future. Next week, 20% chance, and that's mainly some of those coastal pop-up downpours that are between I-10 and I-37, and a few of them can creep their way into San Antonio and surrounding areas. But the generalized rainfall potential really isn't over our area. We're not expecting a whole lot going forward here. We'll take every drop we can get. 34% of Texas is in drought, and most of that is far west Texas and right here. And keep in mind, the new drought monitor should be issued around 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. We'll have that on GMSA at 9, and there should be some changes. We're hopeful because there's 7 to 8 inches of rain unaccounted for that needs to be factored in. Upper level high, it's over the Baja Peninsula. Notice how it moves overhead and then slides eastward, and that's where the highest temperatures will be. Great Lakes in the eastern U.S. And look at this. Monday, San Antonio, 94. It's about average, really. Chicago, 96. Detroit, 98. In Washington, D.C., 99. So they're going to be feeling the heat out there, and we're going to be right near average being 93. Today, we were 92 for the high temperature. 91 right now. 84 at 10 o'clock. We start the day tomorrow at 76 with the low clouds very early around sunrise. Then a blue sky making it to 94. No big changes in temperatures. Rain chances slowly and just slightly creep into the picture.
Thanks, Adam.
I want to take a quick look at ABC's primetime lineup tonight. After the show, you can watch a special edition of 2020. Karen Reed, The Final Verdict. That starts at 7 o'clock.
Then at 9, an episode of Shark Tank. Then join us back here for the Night Beat at 10.
Tonight, streaming at 7 o'clock, we're going to call it KSAT Sports Meow.
Meow.
As people make a feline to the ballpark for what could be a perfect game at the Missions tonight. Taking me out to the ball game.
You know, it's a pretty cool concept indeed, right? Because we know about bark in the park with dogs, but we don't normally have it for cats.
Yeah.
So it's cool. It's going on at Wolf tonight, San Antonio Missions. San Antonio Pets Alive, they will be there.
Yeah.
You can donate. You can adopt cats. I'm sorry. You can adopt cats if you don't have your own. It's really cool. And Mary Rominger will be live for us.
And Mary was out there earlier. We already saw a cat on a leash. We saw a cat in like one of those containers.
Yeah, plastic carrier type of deal.
A cat tainer?
Yeah, cat tainer.
I don't know what it is. But anyway, that's all coming up live as we stream at 7 o'clock. Also, I mentioned it earlier. I said San Diego State back off.
Yes.
UTSA has the coach they want.
Yes. So Pat Hallmark signed that contract extension that's going to keep him around another 4 or 5 seasons. And there was something that was really key in the negotiations, and that was a revenue sharing for the baseball team.
All right. Streams your way coming up at 7 o'clock. We'll be right back.